All right, guys, you see it all the time on YouTube and all over the internet. Software engineering is dead. Put a fork in it, move on to another career, right? Well, thought I would bring on one of the top software engineers that I have worked with in my career in the tech recruiting business for the last 10 years. And let's ask him, is he going to retire? What are his plans? What are his thoughts so far on the impact of AI on software engineering? Very happy to finally welcome RJ Robinson onto the show. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, so I know we've had personal conversations about this, but let's get into it. What have the pundits got wrong over the last 24 months? And what do you think they might be wrong about in the next 24 months about AI just completely wiping out all software engineers? That's obviously how you feed your family. So I think you're obviously pretty up on this issue.
Yeah, so like 2 years ago, the whole thing was AI is going to come for your jobs. I remember the big meme was AI is coming for your jobs in 6 months. And then every 6 months, I was still employed and cashing a check. They made a lot of predictions that they're still being made today. I think they overestimated how much could be generated and they underestimated the need to verify all of these decisions that happened. And what you see yourself in the current state is today, while coding agents are, pretty ubiquitous, that if you're not using them, you should be. But what you still have to go through a verification process because expecting a prompt to one shot a feature or an entire app is really just like social media hype. I remember seeing a story where they rebuilt Monday.com, some news reporters did. And it's like, did they? I don't think they did because there's so much that goes into it. As a staff engineer, I couldn't rebuild Monday.com in an hour with all of the AI tools. And I assure you, most engineers would agree with me that that would be impossible.
So what are you seeing now? I mean, I want to get into things that they're not going to replace that a human is going to be essential to still in the next 2 years and going forwards. I mean, what do you think is going to be different in the next 2 years? Why don't we start with what has changed in the last 2 years?
In the last 2 years, we've gone from typing code to directing an agent to write code, which is still engineering. You still have to make really core decisions and have to have a lot of domain knowledge when you're building applications. Product owners and CEOs still can't completely articulate what they want from a user endpoint. So to be able to describe that to a coding agent that has like a small context window, I mean, I know that Anthropic just released a 1 million token and context window, but even then, it's not going to replace us just yet, and I don't think in 2 years, I don't think it's going to replace us either. I think our job is just definitely going to change. We're going to be leaning into these tools heavily. I am, my company is, and it's just going to help kind of, okay. So I thought that it would like reduce cognitive load for using these agents to type up all this code for you. And I have found recently that once I start offloading more of the typing, the engineering parts come in bigger chunks. So I actually see myself spending more time thinking about features and all the ways that it can break and ways that we can make it better. Because the AI agent isn't doing any like refactoring cycle. You can do some refactoring, but it's not going to completely replace us yet. In 24 months, this feedback window is probably going to get shorter. It's going to require more senior engineers and more smarter people, not just people who build like UIs, to build scalable distributed systems. And a lot of them are going to be interacting with other LLM agents. So that's like another vertical that we're going to have to learn. I think I'm very optimistic. I mean, I love the fact that all this AI is becoming ubiquitous. I mean, you got to think nobody knew what ChatGPT was 2 years ago, and now they have Super Bowl commercials for it. So it's like the productivity is increasing, but it's also almost 100% replaced Google for me. I don't know about you if you still use Google to search anything. But no, I'm excited. I think that people are going to be innovating and using different ways to use these large language models and these AI agents and building tools. Hopefully, that's optimistic me. I want them to better humanity. But I definitely think we're going to see some exciting things coming through.
Yeah. So you think it could enhance someone like yourself at obviously the staff level? because just anything very grunt work that you might not have even been doing that much of before is totally off your plate. But and you're just focused on some of the higher level tasks. But what would you recommend for entry level people? Um, like going forward, like, what do you tell them to do?
Yeah, the curve is definitely going to be able to use AI tools, and because this is like has this exponential growth of how fast people are adopting its use. I mean, it's not going to be across every spectrum. There's still going to be room for junior engineers and early career engineers, but they're going to have to not only learn fundamentals, but they're going to have to learn how to use these tool sets to find the answers they're looking for. I do see open large language model usage in any kind of coding interview that's going to happen because anyone, even myself included, we got to brush up on systems design, architecture, distribution, scaling. It's not just about writing pretty clean code anymore. It's about how fast can we scale it with less people. The bonus is that everyone is going to need AI engineers. Like before this came out, like everyone kind of needed software engineers. Every industry, you could think of any business and you could probably hire a software engineer to build some sort of solution for them. A laundromat could have its own web page. And in the current state of things, it would be cost efficient to set that up. Now that we're lowering a barrier even more, AI engineering is going to be able to build automation for all of these businesses. And you're going to need someone who knows the systems and knows how to work with them, and then that's going to completely change the way small businesses and medium businesses are run because now they'll be able to hire, a tech guy or girl to go in there and automate parts of their business that they didn't know how to.
And then what about something like a lot of people are getting into vibe coding that have they don't have the software engineering experience like you do. I mean, do you see that as being a threat on any level, or is it just kind of something that will just kind of enhance people like yourself? And without experience, yeah, you could write like maybe a small web page, but it won't actually make a real difference.
I view vibe coding the way that now I'm going to date myself, but I view vibe coding the way that we used to hack our MySpace pages with JavaScript and HTML. Can it lead to something? Probably, but most of this vibe coding is going to be at the hobby level until they start trying to scale it. And then they're going to have to start really thinking about decisions that might not necessarily be fulfilled by a vibe coder. Another thing to consider is that there's liability involved with vibe coding because who's responsible? You start mishandling someone's information, they can't just go, "Oh well, the agent wrote that." There's security risks that vibe coders probably don't understand. I mean, they can learn. I'm not saying that they will never understand. I'm just saying like at the surface level, your large language model is not going, "Hey, this is a security problem. You should fix this, and here's how." You have to prompt it to get there. Another thing that I'm looking forward to is vibe debugging, which is like a meme on the internet right now where they're like, "Please, bro, make this work." That's my favorite like loop that I see going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, another thing I want to talk to you is about Claude Code. We had a Claude bot. So we had a conversation about this offline as well. You've already, been diving into this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And I have some kind of follow ups on, you're someone that hires engineers and you have for the last few years. And is that the type of thing that's going to come up in interviews going forward? And are you just kind of like, if people are not up on something like Claudebot, are you just kind of maybe going to dismiss them because they're not really keeping track of the industry?
I wouldn't dismiss them. I think Claudebot, again, is one of those hobby things. However, it's more tech led hobbies because people who are spinning up Claudebot to run autonomously on their own network with no security features involved are asking for their data to be stolen. I mean, I spun up a Claudebot and I have fun with it, giving you some secrets here, but it's isolated on my network and it doesn't have access to anything. It's on an old computer. Um, yeah. What do I do with it? Okay, secrets time. All right. So I do my show in the morning and it does a lot of research for me for that show so that I don't have to do it, which is kind of fun. And then it kind of prepares all the links for me so I can click and open them, review them, and then start talking about it in the morning. So it does that every morning on a cron job. If anyone knows what a cron job is, and that just kicks off every day and I don't have to think about it. It's like something I've outsourced to an AI agent.
Yeah, and we will have a link to RJ's new YouTube channel. It's kind of like an AI news reaction channel, which is he's already had some really great stuff. It's only been like a week or so, and he's had some great stuff already that I've been diving into. So definitely something to check out. But what are some other things you cover on the channel?
Yeah, so I talk about news. I talk about security vulnerabilities. We talk about how to deploy AI agents and using machine learning, modern machine learning in production. The whole channel is dedicated to keeping people informed of what's going on in the community, in business, as well as, try to give you some tips on how to deploy safe and quickly. Safe is a key word.
Yeah. And one topic I definitely wanted to hit with you is your kind of ascension in the software engineering world. I did a short form video a couple years back, and I'll reference that on in the links here. But I was talking about RJ in that video, and he went from boot camp to kind of, I think, maybe even manager or senior, maybe director level within 2 years, basically from 50K to 200K ish in 2 years. So what were some of your keys back then to kind of ascend so fast?
It was a couple more than 2 years, but I appreciate the puff. So yeah, so I went to a boot camp, and then I knew there were some holes in my education, and I went and got my bachelor's degree, and wanted to continue. So I keep getting my master's degree. I'm almost done last semester. What are some key things? I mean, you always got to stay relevant. I started writing code when React was just beginning, and now we have AI agents that never existed before. It's important that you find a way to stay current and use those skills in a job that you're at. And if your job's not supporting that, sometimes you got to either fight for it for yourself and advocate it for yourself, take on bigger projects, or you got to find a project that will allow you to grow those skills. So I've just always kind of done that. I've always been hungry for new information and being on the bleeding edge, and it's worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah. And so what are some things you're doing currently besides everyone tuning into your AI news show? But what are some things you do to kind of stay ahead of the curve now?
I volunteer for everything at work. So anything having to do with AI or special projects at work, I volunteer for it, or I bring it up and say, "Hey, have we looked into this? Can I spin off a POC?" Now I try to have a good work life balance, but there's some weekends that I dedicate to this.
Yeah. And how are you finding that information? I mean, what are some of your news sources or some things that you like to watch to get that?
Uh, yeah, so I watch a lot of podcasts on YouTube. Imogen's good. Theo can be good. Network Chuck is a good one. I have newsletters, the TLDR newsletter. I also have there's an AI engineering, I can't remember the name of it, newsletter that I follow. Twitter or X or whatever it's called. I have like curated lists that I try to follow up on that. Once you get on tech Twitter, it just kind of gets fed to you. So that's one of the bonuses of that algorithm.
Yeah. That is the good things about the algorithms now. You start following and liking some things and they'll just keep feeding it to you, right? But does that come up in the interviews? Obviously, you once again you hire a lot of software engineers. Does this type of stuff are you throwing out some of these references and then if it's going over people's head, you're like, might not be
Yeah,
our guy.
sometimes like when you go through an interview, you ask people how they stay current and they say the certain things. And then usually a follow-up is, well, what is the most interesting thing that you find currently? Like what's your favorite thing that gave you such optimism over the future of our industry? That's always a good one. Because it's like puts them on their toes. Like, well, what should I call out?
Yeah. And so what are you looking for in that? Are you looking for them to kind of throw something at you hadn't heard of? Like, well, okay, wow, I didn't even know about that one.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd love to hear something that I've never heard of. I mean, there's so much information and it changes so often. If we're talking about just a job interview part of it, I would say any answer. Usually when they say that I don't or I don't have any answer for that, that means that they might not be that dedicated to their craft and they're just looking for like a paycheck. And it's really hard to hire people nowadays that are just looking for a paycheck. You want people who love technology and want to dive in and be the best at their craft. You don't want just some mediocre person that doesn't.
Yeah, and that's what I get that all the time from hiring leaders like yourself. Like the podcast question or YouTube channel question is coming up in a lot of these interviews because during COVID, everyone wanted the remote tech jobs. They doing the boot camp, 8 weeks to blah, 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 tech job. Those people are being washed out now. And one of the ways is people like you asking them that question because it's not just make 100K in 8 weeks or something.
Yeah, I think that, and I've noticed this with boot camp grads as well, is that even people that I went to boot camp with are still either not at the staff level or they don't even work in tech anymore. And you could tell because they don't dedicate a lot of time to get to the next level. And I think that is an important step that every engineer needs to take. You need to graduate from being a programmer to being an engineer and really thinking through problems. And you don't get that way unless you're like constantly consuming information, constantly building new things and learning about new things.
Yeah. What about technologies? What are you, let's just say you were starting off now. What would you definitely get into? What would you do differently from obviously, I mean, you got in about 10, 11 years ago,
Almost 14.
almost 14. So from a tech stack perspective, like you're starting today, what would you completely disregard from your past and what would you be looking at going forward?
Ooh, I probably would have started earlier. I don't think I would disregard anything. So I learned Ruby on Rails back in the day. And as a Rubyist, I could not recommend any other language other than Ruby. I think Ruby is a fantastic language, even for modern day learning and using LLMs. In fact, Ruby was ranked like the top three languages to use with like Claude code and these large language models. Yeah, top three. So it's still a great language, and I will die on that hill. However, Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, those are also extremely powerful languages, and the ecosystem is just in demand for them for their ability to basically work across the stack.
Yeah. Okay. So Ruby's still going to be relevant going forward, you're saying?
I mean, I think it's going to be relevant. It's dropped off on the top 10 languages, but that's just because they keep inventing languages to replace it.
Yeah. And even, I think it was about 10, 11 years ago when we first started working together, finding a good Ruby developer was difficult back then. I'd imagine you get those skills, you're going to be probably even more in demand now.
I mean, it's still tough to find really great Ruby developers. I mean, we're out there. We get good jobs and then we just kind of stay there. That's probably why it's hard to find us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. And what about anything else with AI in your day to day? Like, let's say personal life and work life. You've went into some of like kind of the AI tools you're using with work, but what about your personal life? You just a ChatGPT guy, a Perplexity guy? What are you doing?
I use Claude. So I've got a Claude Max plan. It helps me figure out recipes when me and my wife are trying to cook dinner. I like, hey, yeah, I got these ingredients. What can I make? Boom. She thinks I'm Wolfgang Puck in the kitchen, just making whatever. It helps me kind of fine tune my workouts. It helped me figure out that I had like an IT band issue without having to go to the physical therapist. So I've been stretching and my runs have been getting longer. I don't really have it tied into like my calendars or anything yet, but I definitely don't Google as many things anymore. Maps, Google Maps. Soon as Claude gets Maps, I don't think I'm going to use Google Maps anymore.
Yeah. So, what do you think are the advantages to Claude over the other?
Signal to noise, I would argue. And this is kind of like what I predict the future is going to be anyway, is everything is personalized. So if you're talking to an agent about, I don't know, X, Y, and Z, and it already knows A, B, and C about you, then it's going to probably give you the best answer for you specifically. And that might sound like a creepy Big Brother targeted ad thing, if you could cut through that part of the if like fake or what GPT has ads, if you can cut through the ad part, I think you're going to get better answers and you're going to get better productivity and better fulfillment from your searches. Just from a search point of view, like just finding and retrieving information. Oh, Siri's talking to me. Um, from a work point of view, I bounce ideas off it. I use it for brainstorming. That's a big one, is using it for brainstorming and the road not taken. It kind of helps you formulate stuff. And it's not always 100% correct, but I can field test it and I have critical thinking skills where I can look at it and see how it applies to my specific use case. But I think that in the future, yeah, everything is going to be everything's going to be hyper personalized. It's going to be to you specifically. I mean, what's great is that we're moving towards AI models that are going to be able to run on your devices for you. So that means that privacy is going to be a big thing. And then you'll be able to feel more comfortable telling it all of your stuff. It'll have all your health data from your Apple Watch. It'll know what you're eating. It'll know what your schedule is. It'll say, hey, you didn't get enough sleep last night. And I think that the optimistic side of me wants to see that kind of positive force move through humanity. Then we're kind of just living better lives simply because we have an agent to help us through this. Like, I didn't know that I had an IT band issue or even that that existed. So it helped me through that.
Yeah. So a couple more questions that I definitely wanted to ask you. Obviously, you're one of my software engineering gurus, but you also know the tech job market pretty well. Take out software engineering. What would you tell people to focus on? All things considered, job opportunities, AI's impact. What else would you have people look at?
Non-tech wise,
No, no, no. Within tech, just not software engineering.
I think being a business analyst and being someone who can gather requirements is going to be very important, like really good requirements. We're already seeing AI agents as employees, like that's going to be the next thing. So being able to communicate that with an AI agent doesn't necessarily have to be an engineering aspect of it, but any kind of business function, accounting functions, you're going to see AI accounting engineers, and they're going to be able to add engineer or AI engineer to any kind of industry. Social media AI engineer. These are all going to be people who can communicate through AI prompts and prompt engineering to complete business tasks. Hey, I need this document whipped up. Boom. Legal's going to have it. There's another avenue that I don't think people are looking at that they really should is ethics. I think that AI ethics and liability is going to be a non-tech job, but it's going to be needed in basically every industry that deploys AI in some form or another. We're already seeing it, like we're seeing it at bigger companies, but I believe that that is going to be a in-demand field coming up.
Yeah, I'm already seeing some of those jobs in the recruiting business, and those will just keep going up. A lot of the compliance stuff too. It's boring, but damn, it's gonna be necessary.
Regulations, yeah,
Yeah,
all the regulations, SOC 2 stuff, yeah, all that's gonna go, it's gonna go crazy because we're building the plane while we're flying it. That's the stage of AI engineering right now.
yeah, yeah, and there's gonna be some crashes, and the swing back with some of those, like you said, regulation, compliance, like ethics roles. Those are gonna be in high demand to basically get big companies to cover their ass, right?
Yep, and you're also, well, so you talked about vibe coding, and we've seen this term come out called C compression because you said there weren't a lot of jobs out there because the market's been a little bit rough, and that's because they're building features or they're replacing people with AI when they don't even have those things in practice yet. And then another thing that I'm seeing is that something like 40% of the code that they're generating has like got security vulnerabilities. So there's going to be, we swung one way on the pendulum and it's going to come back, and it's going to hurt these companies that took advantage of their employees. That's my prediction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've already talked to people that said, "Yeah, we were going to fire all the engineers, and then we used AI, and it was a complete disaster. We had to hire them back."
Hmm.
And a big company is going to do that, and it's going to make news, and it's going to be really bad for them. And then everyone else
Yeah.
is going to kind of scramble the other way. Well, we need engineers. So
But that's been AI, that's been software since I joined, right? It's always been this like ebb and flow of like, oh, we're cutting engineers, we don't need them. Oh, just kidding, production went down, we need engineers again. So it's just like this big thing. The industry makes its own software shortage problem. It makes its own problems.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, one thing I wanted to ask before we go, I will turn your interview question on you. So, you tell me something that you are optimistic about in the field right now. Like, what's the latest thing you've seen that is very optimistic? And then maybe give us something that you're pessimistic about that.
So I am optimistic about tokens being very cheap. So these tokens that we exchange with these agents is getting cheaper and cheaper by the day. So I'm very excited that that's happening because if you look at the new models that are coming out, OpenAI just released Spark, which is 1,000 token per second model, which is insanely fast. If you ever calculated how many words someone could type per minute, average is about 250 to 300. This types 750 words per second. So, so if you could generate that many tokens when you are live coding with an agent, the feedback loop is dramatically shorter. You're talking almost real time communication, being able to interrupt the agent midstream and say, "Hey, you have to, this isn't right," and you don't have to wait for like the long feedback loop. Like I don't know how much AI coding you've been doing, Chris, but when you hit the prompt, sometimes you could be like, "Well, this is going to take a few minutes," and you go and take a break. It reminds me of the joke in the '70s and '80s when they were like, "Oh, I'm compiling my code." Well, that's what we're doing with AI agents now. But that window is getting shorter and that feedback loop is getting shorter. What am I pessimistic about? Software engineers, new software engineers not understanding the fundamentals to the point where we're gonna lose something. How they like said we can't go to the moon because we don't know how anymore because we don't have that technology and we have to build it back up. I feel like we're gonna hit that dark spot in early career engineers is like where they're not going to fully understand a lot of things and they're just going to kind of plow through it with the coding agent. And then when something breaks, then it's going to come on to like senior people and they're going to have already been in the trenches and have to fix all of these problems. So it's like we have to like as an industry and even as myself, like I have to make sure I teach early career engineers better skills than just prompt and fire and forget.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, why don't you plug your channel? Once again, he's got a new AI news channel. It's great stuff on there. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, so I started the AI engineering brief. It's on my channel, Engineer in the Loop, a little play on words. I'm on YouTube and I might be going on Twitch. And I'm trying to do 1 to 2 shows a week, live stream in the morning, 8:30, some highlights of news, a couple of memes. It's very casual, very fun. And then I'm also putting together I'm going to try to put together a weekly deep dive into like a news story to see how it affects engineers, what we can do to make sure that we're prepared for everything. I made this channel because I did not want to continue to see all the doom and gloom of AI is going to replace us in 6 months. We're living in a very positive time, and I wanted to like show all the positivity and cut through the hype and the media and the clickbait and just lead with like, hey, here's what's awesome because we're really living in an awesome time. Have you seen what's that new TikTok is it Scene Deep Sea? I can't even remember the name of it. They makes like the AI video. Have you
Yeah, with the superheroes fighting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is like they look at that and they're like they're so impressed. And this statement I heard somewhere keeps coming out in my head every time I see something cool with AI. And it's saying that this is the worst it will ever be. And that's today. It's the worst. And it's amazing and it's awesome. And so I started a channel because I want to like continue to learn about all these amazing, awesome things and share them and see how we can prepare for the future because, there's no putting toothpaste back in the tube. We're it's out. We're going full speed ahead. So that's what it's about.
Yeah. And like kind of back to what you were saying, people can get clicks just by saying, "Yep, Hollywood's done. Look at this." It's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Nah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be I'm gonna try not to be that guy. And if I ever do that, then I'm gonna basically call out why that's not the case because we're gonna be needed more than ever.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for finally making this happen, man. And we will have links to RJ's channel and his LinkedIn. If you're a fellow Ruby person, definitely say hi to him because you guys are part of the same tribe. And yeah, all right. Well, thanks again, man.
All right, Chris. Thanks, man.
Thanks. Catch you guys next time.